Okay, so update on the Ranger. All front suspension I've cut off, and yeah, I just cut the radius arms because I just don't care. Radius arm cross members out as well. I think the sway bar off of the front of this one, which I believe is an Explorer unit, pretty good sized, is going to be about perfect width. I'm going to use it on the rear end actually, because when I narrowed the rear end, the sway bar wouldn't fit, and I was in a hurry, so I just didn't put it back on. It got left in Missouri. Blah blah blah. Anyway, got this plug-in I made. It's for a 220. I was tripping the breaker with my plasma cutter and my chop saw, so I added on a 110 box to my 220 outlet to have a 50 amp breaker, and it works really well. Motor and tranny are out right now, radiator and all that crap. But front cross members in. It's just kind of mocked up right now. I got the spindles and struts on as well, and I was really surprised. The power steering rack is super light. Haven't done a lot of Fox body stuff, but super light. I love it. I need to straighten this, and probably either tomorrow or Saturday, I'm gonna go to the salvage yard and get a few more pieces that I need. But I put this in and I was like, oh man, this is gonna suck because it needs to be back in further this way, and I don't have to get rid of I have to move the brake booster and crap. And then I was like, oh, never mind. This has to go down freaking 6 inches still, so it'll be down here somewhere below the master cylinder. So crisis averted there. Just 2x3 tubing. I'm gonna box the front of the frame rails and plug weld and brace it up so it'll be plenty strong when I'm done. I think I'm gonna add a cross member in right there too once I have the motor back in for mock-up, to just tie the frame rails in together again, because there was a cross member there and another cross member here originally, so I'm losing rigidity because this is bolted in, not welded in. So I'm pretty sure I'm gonna add a welded in cross member right there in place of the radius arm cross member, just to stiffen things back up. And then up here I'm going to build little stubs because I wasn't sure exactly where this was going to turn out. So sway bar mounts up here in front of the K-member, and then this is going to have to kick back down and underneath the core support for the body mounts. And I'm going to get a good core support out of the wrecking yard to get rid of all this tack job stuff I did before. The spindles look like they're going to be really close to being where I want them depth-wise. I'm actually really happy about that. What else? I've been toying around with the idea of just converting this over to... originally it was for air-to-water intercooler, the heat exchanger, but that idea lasted all of about 2 weeks maybe, and I don't think I ever drove it again after I put this in. But I was toying around with the idea of cutting this at an angle and putting in a good sized radiator there and just using that to cool the engine, so it'll be more room up front for fun activities, maybe a turbo or two later. But I'm gonna get a good core support put back in it, and this was wrecked a long time ago before I bought it, and it's rotted out like right there, but it's always been crunched up pretty bad. So get a new core, not new, but a used core support put in it. Replace this because it's also got a big bow in it right there, and this crap been broken always. So do that and just clean up stuff. What I think I'm gonna do, I kind of had an epiphany moment. Instead of trying to put the tops of these where they go and make some shady mock-up weirdness, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the salvage yard and I'm going to cut the shock towers out of if it's there, the car I took this K-member out of. And basically, all I'll have to do is line them up with the bolt holes there, and then I'll have a way to capture this, and then I can fine-tune them and weld them in solid to the frame rails and brace them back up. And then with a Monte Carlo bar, it should be fine. It should stabilize the top. I don't really like the kit that is available right now for the K-member. I think AJE or somebody makes it, because it ties, to me it doesn't make a lot of sense. You have a cab mounted on rubber bushings, so it's isolated, right? And then you have a K-member mounted to the frame with in their case, coilover mounts solid to the frame, and then you have a Monte Carlo bar across them, which is a good idea, but then it ties in to this panel right here on the cab, which to me seems very not kosher. Like, the cab and the frame are going to move differently, and if you're tying them together, you're asking for, in my opinion, just problems later on down the road, cracking, possibly. It's just one of those things. It doesn't seem like, on a frame vehicle, the chassis should be the chassis and the body the body. Like, you don't tie them together anywhere because they're not built for that. It's not a unibody, so if that makes sense, I don't agree with that. But pretty much, I'm gonna cut all this old roll cage crap out my dad built, because I had to be safe. But I'm really liking it. I'm liking the width. I still have to. The tie rods right now are still set out 3/4 of an inch on each side, at least, like toed out, a minimum of maybe an inch or two on each side, because the control arms are shorter, so they suck them in. But I gotta narrow them back down. But I was really happy. Once I get this tacked in, I'll set the motor and tranny back in and see how it looks. Like what our clearance will be on the steering shaft and stuff, because if you look, I had mine offset like 2.5 inches, I think, or 2 inches, 1.7 something like that, offset to the passenger side to clear. If you look, the factory, if you look at the distance there and there, the factory is offset as well to the passenger side for clearance problems. And just generally, most vehicles are offset to counterbalance driving with just a driver most of their life, so the chassis is relatively level then. But if you look there, it's offset quite a bit, probably close to 2 inches. So I think it's going to sit lower than I had it, and also offset about identically to what I had it. So it's going to be really close. We'll see. I think for now I'm going to keep this. I would really, somebody stole it before I got back to the car. I'd really like to have Hydro Boost like the Mustangs have, the Cobras and the GTs with the Hydro Boost brakes. I would really like that, because then I could just run Mustang lines for everything. I could have my power steering pump on the motor, running the power steering and the brakes, just all factory lines, just for simplicity's sake. But we'll see. I ended up not using nearly as much of my tubing as I thought I was going to, so I have a lot of spare, like 10 feet extra, that there's like another 2 feet in the chop shop. That's not, I don't think I'm gonna, I need like another foot on the front of each frame rail, and I have a full 10-foot stick still, so we'll see. But right now, I'm kind of at a standstill because the yard was closed today at the pick and pull. So once they open back up, I'll get the shock towers cut out. Then it should move pretty quickly, because once I have that done, I can set the toe in and center it off the spindles. I had it roughed in, centered lengthwise off of the ball joints, but I really would prefer to have it centered off the spindles like I had it, the original markings. This line right there is my center mark, so pretty close, I would say, if the wheels are straight. But once I have my shock towers mounted, that'll help set my camber and my caster close, and I'll have to get adjustable plates obviously for the top, and I might even have to inboard them a little bit because the control arms are shorter. So it's kind of a conglomeration, we'll see. But I'll have the factory mounts, and if I brace it well enough, I could even go to coilovers in the future and run like lightweight. That's the whole point of this, is at some point I would like to be able to switch out to just a run-of-the-mill tubular K-member, tubular control arms, and coilovers like a Fox body. That's the whole point of this, is so all of this front-end components will be completely interchangeable with a Fox body, which means they'll be cheap, plentiful, lots of knowledge about them, like how to fix bump steer problems, how to fix pretty much any handling problem of a Mustang is ironed out, because everybody has or has had a Fox body or SN95 Mustang. It's just, they're ubiquitous. So we'll see how that goes. I'm going to go ahead and I think I'm going to go ahead and try to get some new ball joints and stuff and get all that replaced eventually, but for now I'm just going to set the toe in rough and go from there. But if you have any questions or want any advice, let me know in the comments. Out.